Okay, so off camera what I've done is I have added montage paste to the chain so that it will slide and lubricate the chain. I also had previously added montage paste to the chain sliders. And we just need to raise in neutral. Let's turn this away. Stops at 0T. Markers are in perfect alignment, so I'm really happy with what I've done over here. So as I said, I have a new belt tensioner. So here's this one. This is shot. This doesn't make any sound, and this spins a lot more. This doesn't spin so freely. Anyways, I could only replace the pulley itself, but I don't want to do that in the event that the belt tensioner will collapse. So I'll be changing that completely. So we're gonna use this E14 wrench, and we're gonna use a proper pipe. Okay. So we're gonna have to hammer this critter out. Okay, so a few hammers ought to do the trick. So headshot. This is how we have pulled it out of this tab over here. This tab over here was inserted, I'd assume, into this slot. And also double check. This was an original one made by Litens, and this is also a Litens, but it doesn't have any more. So this is the new one. This is the old one made by Litens. This is also made by Litens. See inside. Doesn't have the Mercedes tensioner number. As you can see, it's in very good condition. I mean, the new one should be in very good condition. This old one, let's compare the insides of it. Had some damage inside. It's visible that it wasn't gonna live any longer than it should have been used. So let's put the new one in. So we put a little thread locker, so that we know that the vibrations won't take it out. So we set the torque wrench to 20 Newton meters. Tighten this bolt back here. Okay, so we've got here a new engine mount and the old engine mount. I'll try to put them side by side. As I was saying, the old engine mount and the new engine mount, it's a noticeable difference in height, not by a lot, but it is. You see here one finger, and over here one finger is not quite one finger, is, I would say, a pinky. So yep, taking a we've got a reading of 12 millimeters. So over here again 12 millimeters, and here it's not. Succumbed. Well, that's a rough measurement. So this is the driver's side engine mount. I will show you the other engine mount once I have it removed and the engine lowered into the subframe. Okay, small update. The engine frame, the bottom engine frame, has been raised in its original position. I have added blue Loctite to the bolts. They were torqued properly. I have lowered the engine into its proper position. Also, I have changed the engine mounts. This engine mount is new, properly torqued. This engine mount is new. I need to put the heat shield, this heat shield, okay, and also then I need to put the bottom bolt and put Loctite on it and torque it. The old engine mounts were, well, at the end of their life. They were still okay, but they were needed to be replaced. Next step, I will be replacing the oil cooler. I'll buy a brand new one because it's way better to replace it and then have everything installed in its position, and then finding out that it's gonna leak. You can see that it has some perspiration, oil perspiration, so I don't want to leave it any longer than it needs to be. This engine mount, you will have to replace it with the jack from underneath using the rib on the oil pan over there. So this rib over there, this corner, you use that to raise the engine. You can't use this engine hoist on this side because you're gonna have chain slippage and you're gonna be in a world of trouble then. So yeah, it's coming along really nice. I'm really happy with the progress that I've made. I'm really chuffed with how things are falling into place. Update on the progress. Engine is properly seated on the engine mounts. The engine mount on the right side has been properly installed. Heat shield above, metal heat shield above, and down below the green rubber thing, that's the rubber heat shield. Came in with the engine mount. The left side, the driver side, rubber heat shield. Over here you don't have so big temperatures, but it's also always a good thing to protect the rubber hydro mount with that heat shield. Now next thing would be to remove the oil cooler. As you can see, it has a lot of perspiration over here, and one bolt is that one. There's another one on the other side. So on this side I can start putting back the alternator, then the pump, the power steering pump, on its place. I think I'll start with the alternator, but I'll see how I'll do it first. Having freed the steering pump, it's much easier to put all the bolts on the alternator. As you can see, this one is really easy to access right now, but when you don't have the option to move the power steering pump in front or in the back, it makes life a bit difficult. So a tip on how to install the alternator: you just put it in position over there, let it hang on the engine frame, and from underneath the car you fix the two bolts, and then you start doing the upper ones. Don't forget to put on the bolt thread locker. I use this one. So put the two bottom bolts in position without thread locker, tighten them all the way in, put the top bolts with thread locker, tighten them all the way in, screw them in place, then undo the bottom ones, put thread locker and screw them back in place, and then torque to spec. Okay, the belt pulley from the crankshaft has been tightened to 200 Newton meters and 90 degrees. Of course I couldn't pull the entire 90 degrees. It was only, I would say, 50 degrees, because it was very hard. I used some extensions on the breaker bar, but still it wasn't really. You need a lot of force to pull the entire 90 degrees. You need around 2 meters to have leverage. I have taken out the oil filter housing with the oil cooler attached to it. So in order to be able to do that, you have to take off the electric starter, which you remove it from there. You're gonna need a lot of extensions and a 1/4 inch ratchet and a 1/2 inch ratchet, 3/8 ratchet. Yeah, you're gonna need all those in order to get underneath the car and be able to undo the starter. Also, you're gonna need a standard E14 wrench, right, to undo those bolts. Basically, you're gonna undo this bracket over here, which sandwiches the bracket to the gearbox, and then on the other side you have the starter removed over there. And now over here we've got the oil filter housing together with the bad gasket and also the oil cooler on the bottom side. So this is a bare oil cooler, bare Male. I'm gonna change it to the Nissan's because the original one was triple the price, and in my opinion Nissan's does good enough quality for radiators and stuff like that. Anyways, it's a lot of work to get up to here, but I'm thankful to God that I managed to do so. So let's move on. I'll show you. Don't forget that the oil filter housing is held onto the engine block with 4 screws, which are undone with an E14 Torx socket. Right, so I have finished cleaning the oil filter housing. I have detached the oil cooler. I took out the oil filter. This is how it looks right now. This is due to the brake cleaner which I used. So I cleaned as best as possible all the cavities. Don't worry, I'll blow it with compressed air. I have my trusty compressor over here, and this is how it looks like. Okay, now let's try to install in this place the rubber protection tube. Okay, so it goes in with the big diameter inside, and this remains outside. After installation, this plastic will have to come off. Okay, so the boot is now installed properly. You don't need to install it from the cabin, you can install it from the bottom side. Just wiggle it around the hole and it's gonna be fine. Okay, so now that we have the oil cooler installed on the oil filter housing, we are going to prepare the surface with some engine assembly grease or general purpose grease, all-purpose grease. Reason why I'm doing this is to keep the gasket, which I'm gonna put over here, in place. This kind of grease works very well for me, and it has worked very well for me in all the applications which I have used it. So let me put the gasket on and you'll see how it looks. Okay, so the gasket is now in place. It's ready for install. Next thing is clear the area of unwanted parts. Okay, have the ratchet at hand, clean the bolts, the threads themselves, degrease them. What I like to do is I'll put this in position, and these 2 bolts which are exposed, I'll just put them in just to keep things in place. Afterwards, the back ones I'll be putting a thread locker on them, installing those, and removing the front ones, adding thread locker on them and putting them back in. Okay, so the oil filter housing is in place, properly tightened, juice is flowing properly. Joking, this is the all-purpose grease which I've added, plus the thread locker which sipped out over there. I'll be installing right now temporarily, of course, the oil filter, so that I can close the cap so that dust doesn't go inside the engine. And after that I will be installing back the starter motor and putting back the screws in, and hopefully finishing with the bottom end side of the of the engine over there. Update on the situation. Here's a new electrical connector over here. It's crimped, properly crimped, and it's not going anywhere. I'll have to attach the connector over there as well. Then I'll have to put some tape on this connector so it will be protected. I'm gonna use this kind of tape, so it's temperature resistant. It can withstand temperatures from -40 to +150. It's age resistant, mechanical, friction resistant, tear resistant. It's made out of PET, and it's done with it's sticking onto itself with acrylic adhesive, also weatherproof. Right. Okay, so this is the compressor. I've cleaned it with brake clean, and also I used some gasoline with the rag and a toothbrush. Anyways, I removed this fuel plug with this Torx screw. This is a T30. Yep. Okay. Of course, I couldn't drain all the oil out, and then I used this E11 to unscrew all these bolts, and I took this head off. Once I took the head off, a lot of oil dripped out. I've cleaned it, nothing unusual. Anyways, after I have refilled it with the AC Delco supercharger oil, it's got 118 milliliters. I added some gasket maker to the drain plug and tightened it by hand. Nothing crazy, just by hand a bit. Anyways, torque setting for all these bolts. I torqued them in 2 steps, even though it's probably not needed, but you can directly torque them at 25 newtons. I started at first to get all the things together by hand, and when it stopped, I then applied 20 newton meters in a crisscross pattern, and then in this other direction, and after that I added another 5 newtons and it's tightened at 25. This is how you service the supercharger. The old oil was black and foul smell. It had a foul smell, like, I don't know, cheese or something like that. And the new oil was yellow, similar to honey. Okay, so in order to put the supercharger in, it's quite easy. Put it without the muffler, the plastic muffler, which will go in between the oil filter housing and the supercharger. So you keep this upper part on the top side, and this on the bottom side. Have it twisted just to clear the pulley, supercharger pulley, and after that you twist it in position. You have a locator pin over here, and it's quite easy. You just need another pair of hands to keep it in place until you put the top screw and the bottom screw, which is on over there.